So the second season picks up a few weeks after we last saw our heroes. Or a few
maybe
weeks.
A couple months.
It picks up a few weeks or a month, whichever.
47 days.
Oh, that's right. After the last episode of season 1, they've been picked up as a series within the show, and we see them trying to make the best show possible. And Ruth and Debbie have kind of spent that time away from each other, and we see the first time they see each other again, and it's weird.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of unfinished business between Ruth and Debbie that we delve into a bit in season 2. In season 1, they never really talked about this major thing that happened between them, save for one fight in the first episode. So they sort of skipped over the healing process, and I would say as friends, they're sort of worse off in season 2 than they were last year, and ready to kind of, they end up having to sort of really get to the heart of issues that maybe have existed in their friendship all along outside of that incident. It's very different. The Ruth and Debbie dynamic is very different in season 2. Yeah. I actually think we maybe spent more time together last year.
Right.
And there was kind of like more of a longing. This year, the repercussions of what happened last season are ringing louder than ever. And it becomes harder and harder for the characters to ignore this like gaping flaw in their friendship. And again, there's just deeper issues at play.
Yeah, and I think it all stems from how much they love each other. I think if they were both willing to let the friendship go, they would just kind of ignore each other and maybe never speak again. But I think that in their hearts, they want this friendship to emerge and be repaired. But they're going to have to do a lot more vulnerable work than they're willing to do.
It's a battle, for sure. I think Ruth and Debbie are similar in a lot of ways. Obviously, they're both actresses. They both have desires for greater things than they've been allowed to do. But they both respond to things in very different ways. And I think a lot of that does come from the dynamic that they have set up in their friendship for years. And Ruth, Debbie sort of ends up taking the power position often. I think that her go-to move is a bit more aggressive. Ruth is used to being a doormat, a martyr, puts herself in a poor me situation more often than not. I think they just respond to things in a very different way. And a lot of that is almost learned behavior that they've taught themselves through their own friend dynamic.
Yeah, I think they both are navigating what areas they feel very confident in and what areas they still feel very unsure about. And I think they both feel very lonely and invisible in certain ways and assert power where they can to stop feeling that way.
Oh yeah, season 2 is all disruption because we're watching these characters struggle with fame, with in a very small way, but being on a show that people are watching and responding to. Season 1, we were watching them in their own bubble, learning to do this thing that they were all very excited about, and very similar to our own experience shooting season 1 in a vacuum and just having our own special experience and then giving it away to the world. And now in season 2, we find ourselves in the same position as our characters a little bit at going, oh, now there are expectations outside of our own that are just something to deal with.
Yeah, there's a different energy when there's an audience you're playing to instead of when it's this protected environment where you're just creating for the sake of creating. Once you have feedback from the outside world, it can kind of eat your brain in an unhelpful way.